Good morning and welcome back to school after a forced couple days of vacation. I'm sure you're all happy to be back. I'm going to help you through the warm up this morning or this afternoon, as the case may be, to get you ready for your quiz today. So we're solving, and we are going to use the strategy that we learned last time when we first looked at a little bit of 4.5, section 4.5, and so we're going to be using factoring. Now, as always with any factoring, the first thing you should always look for is a common factor, and in this case it looks like a is a common factor, so we'll divide that out and we'll leave a squared minus 4a plus 4 after factoring out a. Then next we can look at this part, this trinomial, a squared minus 4a plus 4, and it looks to me like we could use negative 2 plus negative 2 to get the middle term, and negative 2 times negative 2 to get the third term, and so it's negative 2 twice, and so that should be a minus. Okay, and if these are our factors, the two solutions should be 0 and 2. Okay, that's number one. On number 2 here, we have a similar situation. We're still going to factor, but first, with this one, we should get everything over on one side so it's equal to 0. All right, so that's looks like something we could do factoring by grouping, maybe, since it's 4 terms, not 3 terms like number 1 had, but it's got 4 terms. So looking at just the first 2 terms, it looks like x squared is the common factor, and that would leave x minus 2 after we factor that out. For the last 2 terms, just 16 and 32, it looks like 16 is a common factor, and that'll leave x minus 2 because negative 16 times negative 2 would be positive 32. Now remember, when we can write it in this form, then we're able to rearrange it to say this, because both of these parentheses had x minus 2. So we rearrange it like that. And we're not quite finished, because x squared minus 16 is something that can also be factored. So we could do plus 4 and minus 4 for that. And we still have the factor of x minus 2. And if those are the 3 factors, the 3 solutions are 4, negative 4, and 2. Now the solutions can be listed in any order, really. All right, moving to number 3. We have this thing which has something on both sides. Now, just like we did in number 2, it's probably a good idea to bring one term over to the other side, so we have it equal to 0. So subtracting 27x to the third and have it equal to 0. Now we have something in common to both of these terms. They both divide by 9, and they also have x at least to the third power. So 9x to the third is a common factor, and that would leave x squared minus 3. Okay, now it doesn't look like this is something that we could factor, but thinking about what we might do if we needed to solve x minus 3 equals 0, which is essentially what we need to do, then we can think of it this way. X squared minus 3 equals 0 means that x squared would equal 3, and if we take the square root, then we're going to get plus or minus the root of 3. And that takes care of finding the solutions associated with this factor, and the solutions associated with this one, since we can think of it the same way. We have 9x to the third that should equal 0. Dividing by 9 makes it still equal to 0, and the cube root of 0 is 0. So in this one, our solutions are, we have 3 again, 0, plus and minus root of 3. All right, for number 4, again, we don't have it equal to 0, and that's something we should do, is get it equal to 0. So let's and to make it look the way we are used to seeing things, let's put the 14x squared in the middle. So that'll be our middle term. And now hopefully you recognize that as something that is in quadratic form, in the sense that the first term has a degree that is exactly twice the degree of the middle term. And so we can factor it the same way we would if this was x squared and this was x. So the only difference would be that we should have x squared as the lead term of each binomial of our two factors. And so now we're looking for a pair of numbers that has a product of 40 and a sum of negative 14. And I think 4 and 10 should work for that. 4 times 10 is 40, 4 plus 10 is 14, and those are both negatives. And this one, x squared minus 4, hopefully you recognize that as a difference of squares, which can be further broken down into x plus 2 and x minus 2. And this one really is similar. It's just that we don't know what the square root of 10 is, so we're just going to have to call it the square root of 10. So we could really factor this as x minus root 10 and x plus root 10. And so with those factors, our solutions are plus or minus 2 and plus or minus the root of 10. Okay, now I showed you kind of two different ways to deal with this part of it on number 3 and number 4. But either one will work. You can think of this as something that you can factor as long as you're willing to use the square root of 10 as one of your factors. And this one, I showed that you can think of that as well. If that has to equal 0, how would you solve it? You can solve it using square roots. So two different ways to accomplish the same thing. Now, on this last one, number 5, we're going to start similarly in the sense that we're going to get it equal to 0. So let's put minus 9y squared here and plus 27y minus 27, have it equal to 0. Now, let's see if factoring by grouping, this looks like something like number 2, where we should try factoring by grouping. Let's see how that's going to work. We could take out y squared from the first two terms, and that would leave us with y, or I'm sorry, yeah, with y minus 9 there. And if we took out 27 from these two, that would leave us with y minus 1. Now, those don't match, so that doesn't look like factoring by grouping is going to work here. So let's look at something else. I think let's try, this looks an awful lot like, since this is 3 cubed, let's see if this would work. Y minus 3 cubed. So that was not helpful there. But let's see what we could do with this. Well, we could call this y minus 3 squared times y minus 3. In y minus 3 squared, I think you should see that that's going to be minus 6y plus 9. And then from there, we can multiply that by y minus 3, the binomial. And if we do that, I'm going to move over here to this side because I want to use my box because I want to make sure that I don't miss any terms. So what I'm thinking of is doing y minus 3 on that side and then times y squared minus 6y plus 9. And remember, this is just, I'm just using this like a multiplication table to make sure that I haven't missed anything. So this is minus 6y squared, and this is 9y. And this is negative 3y squared, and this is 18y, and this is minus 27. So it all boils down to y cubed. These two are going to go together to make minus 9y. These two go together to make 27, or this is y squared, sorry. And then these two are going to go together to make 27y, and then minus 27. So my intuition was right, and that this is equal to y minus 3 cubed. So that means there's only one solution to this, and it's y equals 3. Okay, and I'm going to give you that hint that there is one item on the quiz that is very similar to that.